go back to July of 2007.
Nagesh, Nag Shakti.
I was really happy I'm live independently in the hostel and all that. If you're in the right field, it wouldn't seem like a toxic culture to you.
Everybody in the family would just tell, oh, he has gone to IIT. I knew I am intelligent.
His surname is actually Sharma, so he was a Sharma ji ka ladka for me.
This was not really a choice, but wasn't even forced.
I wouldn't say it has completely gone away.
Scrapes the top of your wine and then it goes away.
Hello, brothers. Bhai log.
Hello.
Thank you to all of you for joining in for this very, very special episode of the IC India podcast. And why special? Because this is a group that came to be 16 years ago. Digest that for a minute. Well, we were pretty much in exile at Kota, the coaching capital of India. We were all not really at our happiest best because of not having got our institute of choice on our first attempt, and so decided to take that gap year before a second attempt at the entrance examinations. So we were all a little low, to put it mildly, but then we found each other, and these are bonds that have stood the test of time. So 16 years later, happy to report that we partake in an annual ritual to meet and bring in New Year's together, with our last meet having happened not even a month ago. So I think today's episode actually becomes one of its kind, because I don't know of any other instance where former Kota-ites or anyone going through that dark, long tunnel of the unforgiving coaching grind and suffering that fear of failure every day come together after 16 years to swap notes on how life has turned out for them. And this could well be a distinguished panel of exceptionally accomplished and distinguished guests, but they're here today as my buddies. So I have Harsh Saralgi, whom I affectionately call Harsh Sir, who looks after business strategy at Barclays Bank. He holds an MBA from the prestigious XLRI Jamshedpur. He joins us from Mumbai. Ayush Nag, who is Associate Director at Monitor Deloitte in the strategy consulting space. He holds an MBA from IIM Kozhikode and joins us from Bangalore. We have two Shashanks in the group, and both joining us from different time zones. We have Shashank Mishra, known amongst us as Shanky, who is based out of Luxembourg. He looks after global HR technology at Swiss Life, which explains his frequent visits to Switzerland for work. And Shashank Kumar, or Shanky to us, joins us from the Big Apple, New Jersey this morning. He's a certified analytics bro. I don't know if that's a thing like finance bros are. Holding an MBA from IIM Kashipur and an MS in business analytics from the University of Cincinnati. Now working for big names like Capital One, Bank of America, most recently Moody's. And we have Shivam, who happens to be the man of the moment here in the group. He turned away from the corporate grind to commit to music full-time, and just last month got signed on as an artist by T-Series, the biggest music channel there is in the world. I think we need to give a round of applause for the man right here. So we'll get down to talking plenty with these guys. But before that, just wanted to do away with two unspoken rules we've been following so far. One, because IC India is essentially an initiative around solutions journalism, we've been rather serious in our tone for the most part. But today we may have to shed some of that seriousness, and you'll know why in just a bit. And two, we've been doing the podcast in English so far to ensure reach. But today we'll use English or whatever allows for free flow of thoughts, just so
Maybe Banglish as well.
Bang, yeah, whatever.
Because a lot of guys are from can speak Bengali here, right? Not me, but yeah, I know a lot of them.
Yeah, we're a multilingual group, so whatever language you're comfortable with, I'll take care of it in subtitles. So yeah, just feel free. So, brothers, I want us all to go back to July of 2007. The day all of us Yeah, all of us would have landed around the same time. I think I was the last of us all to arrive. Who met whom first? What were your first impressions of each other?
It's easy for me and Shivam because we are from Lucknow, so we both knew each other from before. Yeah, so we met in school. We met in the coaching center along with class 12th. I mean, no points for guessing why did we go to Kota together. So me and Shivam knew each other already. But yeah, we met the other bunch when we came to Kota.
Yeah, so these two are from Lucknow, and the Lucknow influence is clearly has had a lasting impact on us because the group, the name that we go by is Mehfil, and that is a direct consequence of the Lucknow effect.
What were the other options for the names for your group?
I think it just...
How did Mehfil?
There wasn't any. There wasn't any, I think.
It just stuck, right? Mehfil just stuck. That's it.
Yeah.
We never chose a group like we should call it something.
And somebody one day just said that "Aao mehfil jamate hain."
Yeah. Yeah, that's how it happened. I mean, the Mehfil would start like around midnight or after and then go on till like dawn. So, yeah, at the end of a busy day of coaching and solving all those DPPs, right? Daily practice problems. And who came after? Ashta, were you?
Yeah, so I think I had joined a month before you guys came in, if I remember correctly. So I had a few folks from the floor who I knew, but then obviously they were not from the engineering drop batch. So when all of us came together, it made more sense and same mindset, same kind of goals. So I think it was easier to connect to everyone in this group rather than the ones who were there from before. And I think it's more just the connect, right? I think it's all about the connect. You cannot describe it, but that's why it's been, as Abhi sir said, 16 years and we are still here.
I remember Ayush was in the room right opposite to mine, and even when my parents had come to settle me in, Ayush was the first they had met, and because he looks just the quintessential good boy, my mom...
Which is still done.
Which is still true. It's still true.
So, yeah, my mom instinctively just introduced the two of us and was like, so yeah, that's where Ayush and my thing began. And
Yeah, I think I connected with all of this Lucknow gang the first, with 3 or 4 of these guys. And after that, Shashank was on the same floor. And after that, we connected with Harsh. So although we keep saying that we spent about 9 months, but actually it was not. I think the time all of us came together was a good month and a half after.
correct.
Each there. It's just about
When the group of 6 was finally cemented, yeah, that was a good couple of months in.
More than that, I think. It was towards the very end. I think only after Diwali, we started hanging out there at the beach.
Those 4 or 5 months cemented your friendship for life.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Surprising yet true.
Yes.
I mean, not very surprising when you come to think of it, because, I mean, we were at the lowest point of our lives yet, and we had, each other for comfort. We sought comfort in one another, and we had nobody else, and it was just completely cut off from the rest of the world. I think smartphones were not even a thing. I think I and a couple of others were the only ones that had colored phones that had some internet, GPRS, through which we would check our results every once in a while. But nothing to browse too much on. Just a weekly visit to the cyber cafe at best. Orkut was the most we had at that point. So we were isolated, truly, cut off from the world in a way that I don't think it is possible today. I mean, the serious part of it we'll get to in a bit. Chanky, when exactly did you come in?
I think July only, but I came before all of you except Harsh. And then Lucknow.
Then also, I guess we were all kind of Potterheads as well. We all like, and we all have interest in Harry Potter universe. So it goes without saying, right?
Definitely denying it.
Yeah,
I'm not part of that. Yeah, but the others pretty much were.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of Potterheads, I mean, any talk of Kota that comes up, I have to recount this story every time. I can't not. Yeah. So, in fact, I mean, it's fitting too that just earlier this morning it came up on my feed too, like how the Hindi dubbed versions of the Harry Potter movies actually a job very well done. So, the four houses were, anyone remember them fully? Gaurav Garudwar, Maya Mehnat,
Nagesh Nag Shakti.
and Chandra.
Nagesh Nag Shakti. Yeah, okay. That's the third one.
So funny story, I Googled it yesterday.
Yeah, in preparation for this.
No, it just happened. I was amazed by the fact that they named Salazar Slytherin as Nagesh Nagshakti.
Yeah.
And I just got curious and wanted to check out the other names fully as well.
Yeah.
And Childar was something that really stuck. Like, okay, Ravenclaw and Childar.
Yeah, and Griffin Door, Garud Dwar. Yeah, so they really put thought into it. Yeah, so that came on. Anyway, so that Harry Potter story of mine that I absolutely can't not tell. So I don't recall his name. So he and I, we're brandishing like our make-believe wands, and in this make-believe battle at each other. And, the Hindi incantations were fun, to use. So he meant to say Nirastra Bhava, which is Expelliarmus, but it came out as Nirvastra Bhava. And at that very moment, I think, was it you, Shanki? You were right behind. You came out
Yes.
in just your boxers. So we were like, just the spell worked. The Harry Potter craze was at its peak then. I think the final book was yet to come out. Like it would come out any
It
day.
came out while we were there.
Right. I think
And Shanky read the small PDF on my phone, which was painstakingly difficult to do in those times.
He had an N series. If any of you remember, we used to play Snake on that.
the OG smartphone guy.
All these things will also tell you how old we actually are.
Did you hear the
Nobody's going to
remake
get
of Harry Potter already? Like, has it been that long for it to, like a fresh series is being made with J.K. Rowling? It's time for a reboot, apparently. Yeah, and also, like the other day, some Gen Z or Gen Alpha person, they were working on a research paper and they were citing a paper from 95 or 96. It's like this paper from the late 19th century or 20th century. So we are from the late 20th century, guys. We are again antique pieces already. Anyway, so the day you first got in, what was your state of mind like for all of you? I mean, none of us were happy, obviously, but anyone, were you like deep into the recesses of like a very low feeling, or you just committed to like, fine, the first time around didn't happen, we'll how many of you were really motivated enough for a second go at it?
I think I was quite motivated, and I was in a really good mood as well, because first of all, I knew Shashank was there, who was a close friend, and another close friend of ours, Aditya, who actually did clear the IIT, by the way. So he was also coming along with me, and we used to stay in next rooms to each other. So I was really happy. I'm running away from home, and I can just live independently in the hostel and all that. So I was in a different mood. And I had also, because I knew many people who couldn't clear ID in the first attempt, and everybody people close to me had to take two attempts. So I just felt like, first time mein nahi hua, that's वो तो normal है, बहुत मुश्किल होता है. So it's second attempt में तो कर ही लेंगे. So I was like in that mode. I wasn't too burned, because I was I knew that first attempt there's a high likelihood that I won't be able to clear it. So my whole focus was on the second attempt, and also the excitement of being away from home and, like living the hostel life and all of that. So yeah, that was just my state of mind, I think.
Also, you had Bhaiya to look up to.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was going to say that.
Yeah, my family, everyone is a very high academic achievers and all that. So my elder brother is an IITian and many other people. So I had people to look up to. So I was really excited about all of that. And so my state of mind was, but when I arrived, it was like this. When my parents left, then obviously you got a little homesick and emotional, because the first time you ever staying away from home and in hostel and everything. So that was there for a few days, but overall it was positive or good hopeful for me, I think.
I know that I can say now that I was living in denial. I was never cut out for the IITs or engineering, but it was just, most of us kids, we grow up with being told that if you have a little bit of smarts, like there is the IITians and there is everybody else. You don't want to be mediocre, average, or but the IITians are the cream of the crop is what everyone's been told. So having grown up with that kind of conditioning, it was, you set that thing for yourself, and that if you don't make it to the IITs, you yourself are have not made it in life. So I think that 1 year in isolation, in exile, and getting so many diverse perspectives from all of you guys and from everything, with the second time around, I was more prepared to take that failure. I was never meant to crack it, that was never going to be my thing. But it took 1 year of sitting by myself and then learning more of the world, the way it works beyond that limited, frog in the well kind of mindset that I had. I needed that. So anyone else, we were just discussing a few days ago, kids, counterparts in the Western world have the privilege of taking a gap year after their 12th, where they just get to travel the world, Of course, they have first world privileges like the stronger passport, their currency goes a longer way and all of that. But they figure out things about themselves, life, the way the world works, and are then more prepared to take a decision the second time around. So Kota was like that gap year for me, except that I didn't get to travel, have fun, but I got everything out of it that one would hope to get out of that gap year. Friends for keeps, for life along the way, clarity, a reset, a refresh in mindset. And so the second time around, when I didn't crack the entrances, it was just, a full tilt launch away from engineering altogether. And that I realized I didn't have anything to do with that field of study itself. So making more informed choices is what enabled.
Just to add to what you were saying, Abhishek, I had, I think, my worst year in my 12th standard. So I was living alone in Calcutta and my parents had moved out. I was staying in very bad hostels and all that. It was really, really horrific. I got a 6-digit AIR, which was a little bit thrashing for my ego and everything. And then, before giving my 12th, I knew I wanted to go to Kota because I wanted to prepare and do well. So it was 100 times better, if I would say, the Kota world for me, which is obviously very different to anybody who comes for the first time. But the second part of it, which is what you were saying, Abhishek, I did not know what IIT was, and I did not know what engineering was. I did not know what this education will do for me. What will it benefit me for? All in all, I knew, I think Shivam might have the same idea. I had one cousin who had been to IIT. And everybody in the family would just tell, oh, he has gone to IIT. He's very
the blue-eyed boy of the family. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
That's
that,
what happens.
more that he's the intelligent guy. He's the smart guy, as you were saying, right? More than anything, it's just that this person is intelligent, so he went to IIT. So I knew I am intelligent. That's all I knew. I did not know what I wanted to do. I don't know how the youth understands the concept these days, but I think most of us back then did not understand what engineering is. We came from an era where getting a good job was everything, and we did not have the choices maybe that the current generation has. I might be sounding like a 50-year-old uncle, but yeah.
You almost are, so go with it.
But that was it. So I think when we talk about the choices and if we want to go to IIT or not, I think it's really important to understand. I wouldn't say our interests are, which is the common thing to say. I'm 33, I'm going to be 34. I don't know what my interests are even now. So I wouldn't expect my 17-year-old to know what my interests are. But just to understand what life ahead is, and if you are okay with that life and if you want to pursue that life. Most of us did not know what we were doing. Most of us did not know what IIT was. Most of us did not understand why we were doing it and what was the objective of it. A funny thing I recall, just to show how ignorant I was, I used to say back then that I want to go to IIT Powai And if somebody would say IIT Bombay, I used to think it's a different institute. So that is the level of ignorance than I was about the institute. We can imagine how much knowledge.
You know better. I mean, you knew there's IIT in Powai. Like, it was the other way around for me. I would think IIT Bombay is the thing. Where's Powai? Is that another city? What about you guys? Ayush, Shanki?
Yes, something very similar to what Harsh mentioned. This was not really a choice, but frankly, this wasn't even forced. It was something that was just there. That's what you do. You do. I didn't have an idea why I wanted to go to Kota and study this. I just knew that I have to, for some strange reason. Because that's all what you kept hearing about. That's all what you kept reading about. The great life that the people in these premier institutes have, the great packages that they have. That's all that was all around. So I think that it just came naturally that ye jana hai, karna hai. You karna hai, and didn't really think about it. Frankly, I was excited to be there and of course out of home for the first time. It is only when you get there and you realize that, this is not probably what you wanted to do. Now, again, now we can all in hindsight talk about it, think all of these things. But I don't know if kids today also probably would have the same feeling that we have. There are a lot more resources available.
Yeah.
Kids are definitely more aware than us. We didn't have so many avenues. Like we discussed, it was only GPRS and one smartphone which we had. And only Orkut. So yeah, that's how it was 15, 16 years ago. But I hope it is better now.
That's something brilliant that you mentioned, Ayush, because I know even for me and for a lot of others, the pressure actually doesn't come from above, like from family, from parents. I know my parents never forced me into any of this. My father actually has been a professor of management for the longest time. He would be the last person to push me towards engineering. It was just me and the conditioning I was exposed to. Everybody around me, what they were doing, that informed my choices. So if there was a little bit more information available, and if I was exposed to like a better set of people to look up to, like inspirational figures, or made aware of them anyway, I'm sure they were there even then, I think that would really go a long way in informing my life choices. Like you said, of course, no regrets about any of it. I'm absolutely, like, hindsight bias is always the worldview that you've built today is a result of everything that you've lived till that point. So I wouldn't want to change any of it at all. I'm just saying, it just would make life a lot easier for kids if there were more avenues, information of more avenues and more inspirational figures from different walks of life. The knowledge of them was made available to them. Anyone else? Shanki? You?
So mine was a little slightly different. Obviously there were some common elements from all the stories that we heard so far. I had a cousin, and his surname is actually Sharma, so he was a Sharma ji ka ladka for me. And then I grew up in a township where everybody knew everybody. So I had this sort of second-hand confidence and a whole lot of expectations from wherever I looked. Some amount of pressure was self-generated and some amount of it was inflicted upon. Yeah, so when I reached Kota, that was my third outing. So I had tried getting out of my house from the place where I lived. It was a small city in Chhattisgarh. A couple times in 11th standard, 12th standard, and I was fairly homesick. So both times I made some bahana and came back. Probably wasted a lot of my dad's money. But yeah, Kota was part of it was my own decision that, last time around I didn't really have too much guidance, so to say. So let's go to this place where my cousin went and then figure out if I can do it as well. Whatever happened afterwards is a whole different story. Met all of you guys and figured out a lot of different things about me. The initial reactions when I landed in Kota were of being intimidated because there was just a sea of people all around and everybody is gunning for the same thing. Yeah, very quickly I figured out that there was some sort of ratio and it was extremely skewed. 3,000 seats and some 5 lakh people those kind of odds we are put up against, and I may have been one of the smarter kids in the school that I was in yet another part of the country. But country was huge, and there were so many people, and all of them were smart kids. And then came the Lucknow group, and they all seemed very intelligent and very confident.
Thank you for including me in the intelligent category.
They seem
Seemed.
I wouldn't even dare to go and talk to them because they just seemed so confident, and I was fairly underconfident about that point in time. But over the period of time, discovered I have a choice.
I have one question for all of you. Now that you have shared, does anyone ever look at you now and say, hey, look at that guy didn't care IIT? Anyone from your town or anyone who that time you were influenced by, has ever anyone brought up?
Nope,
Is it still on your mind?
definitely
Any of you?
not for me. Harsh,
I
for you?
went away, I think, maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah, I don't think anyone else, points that out in our lives or personal lives or family or relative or anything. I think this also tells you like so much of this pressure and the expectation that we think of when you're 17, 18 is actually just imaginary. Like the way they show in films that you have bad relatives or bad people always give आपको ताना दे रहे हैं or saying all of these things. ऐसा कुछ हुआ नहीं कभी. So life just went on. I mean, yes, for us, it was devastating that we couldn't clear it and we were really upset and all of that. But like, at least for me, nobody in my family or extended family or my friends or anyone looked down upon me or spoke down to me or something like that. It was just like, ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं बेटा, कुछ और करना, कहीं और से पढ़ लेना. And so a lot of these things are also just imaginary or in general created by the societal pressure, whatever you want to call it. You have to be successful, you have to be an engineer from an IIT and all that. But actually in person, when it comes down to that, in my personal experience, nobody really actually bothered about it that much. Life just goes on.
Yeah, और वो ताना अगर दे भी रहे हैं तो मतलब वो पीठ पीछे अगर देना भी हो, it doesn't reach you. और वो मतलब, and all of that is very fleeting, very transient. मतलब today you're someone जिसको वो ताना दे रहे हैं, tomorrow, if you do well, the same set of parents will call you, बच्चे के थोड़ा guide कर दो कैसे करना है. So it just, the perspective of you is very, it's in flux. It just keeps shifting. Harsh, you were saying something about, you have some guilt.
Yeah. So, okay, I will start with the regret part. For some reason, I don't know. I know it wouldn't have been any different. It wouldn't have, maybe my career wouldn't have been any different, but I wouldn't say it has completely gone away. I would still say that it still lingers that, yes, I was not able to clear IIT and I wish I had. I also feel now, because I'm in an organization where I'm surrounded by a lot of these guys. It's mostly all IITians. So maybe that is another thing. Though it doesn't affect my career path, or I might have done better than some of them eventually. But yeah, it's still there. And maybe somewhere you get reminded unintentionally that yes, you are not part of that. And I don't know why that is, but I wouldn't say it affects me. But yeah, I haven't forgotten it that I did not clear it. And the second part I would say is absolutely true, that more than them taunting us, I think majority of them would come to you for advice. Majority of them would come to you for how did you manage your even engineering, MBA or anything else. Family members would come to you for advice for their kids.
And building on what Harsh said, it was a bit of an opposite phenomena or a feeling. So it happened then, obviously, did not clear the IIT, went to join a state level engineering college. And then one of my friends invited me to the Tech Kriti, I guess it's called Tech Kriti, right? IIT Delhi Tech Festival, right? So I was there maybe third year of college. But when I went there, I did not feel that I was not a part of this crowd. I could relate to them. I could relate to the discussions that were happening. Two random guys were discussing in the boys' toilet something about a computer logic or code, which I could totally understand. So I was like, hey, it would have been nicer to be here, to be listening these sort of conversations, to be involved in such discussions. So I felt a part of the crowd, and at that point, maybe I felt okay. I could have given it a better shot. I could have been here, but then honestly, like now Harsh said, over the years and working with a lot of people from IIT backgrounds, from non-IIT backgrounds, from I don't know, maybe ETH Zurich background. it just fizzles out. It's just like at the end, we are all doing more or less the same thing. It's about your work ethics and your approach to life then more than your academic degrees. But yes, I would agree with Harsh as well. Sometimes it's reminded that it's a special elite bunch. It just scrapes the top of your mind and then it goes away. So
these fleeting moments of being reminded of that, is it because of the different sort of treatment meted out to those guys at the workplace, or just something just that comes from within?
Not exactly. It's about the treatment. I think it's about the image of the IIT in general, that people regard them as the maximum you can achieve from an engineering background in India, which is true. I don't deny that. But it's just that the label or the tag which has been associated with it. And there are a lot of people in the management, even today, when they hear IIT, they have the mood changes or something happens in their brain. Hey, this guy's from IIT, so he's special and I want him in my team, or I would prefer to work with him in my team, blah, blah, blah. Even though that person may not be necessarily from an IIT or IIM, but they would give special attention to such tags or such labels or such CVs. So that is, I've seen in a few instances, not many, but here and there.
For me, it would be just the pain that I worked towards something and I didn't clear it. That's the pain that I carry, not the pain of not getting into IIT. So I don't know about, is that the case for at least some of you? That is just something you tried but you didn't get?
Yeah, majorly that. For me, it's majorly that I worked towards it and I couldn't crack it. I think it's more that than anything.
And one more thing I would like to say, when Ayush was speaking, I was thinking about it. So it's a reality check when you reach Kota. The thing is, when you are working for your goal or preparing for your coaching centers in your own little towns, then you realize it's hard, but you can give it a shot. But then when you reach Kota, it's a reality check for you, saying, hey, I'm not the only one. And maybe it was not a good idea, but it's too late to go back because the fees has been paid, the expectations have been set. There's no option. You have to do it. So it's a struggle between that feeling, maybe it's a wrong decision, or maybe I'll have nowhere to go. So you're caught in that. You should have a guide or you should have a coach who can tell you, okay, it is what it is. This is how you should proceed. I think that was lacking, and then you have to make your own way. And I have a pick to share which gives a perspective of how difficult or how competitive it is. Abhi sir, can I share?
Sure.
If it is possible.
Yeah.
Okay, cycle parking of Bansal classes.
Oh.
I still have the photo. So you just imagine, and this is just maybe one shift of the classes, because the classes were running 24/7, not 24/7, but maybe from 8 to 8. And this is from our shift. Then when we were going there, imagine I'm just looking at the bicycles, how nicely they are parked. Just replace the cycles with a motorbike or cars, and you would be thinking it's somewhere in Gurgaon, like a corporate IT park. There's so many people working in the same building on the same premises. So this is one premises of multiple coaching centers, and it's just one coaching company.
Intimidating, in fact, is the word. Like Shanky was saying, like first impressions are when you get there. So this picture, I've almost forgotten about it. It's just looking at it after a long time. My most intimidating thing was just looking at, signboards, hoardings all around, and them advertising like single-digit AIRs, and not one like physics or chemistry term had been spared. Like there were coaching classes that had come up with the names of all of them: motion, resonance, nucleon, what have you. Shaki, you were going to say something.
Yeah, so I was going to say something about the fact that how do you get reminded of these things? So I'll start with a personal anecdote for that. When the results came out, there was this guy fairly close to me. Obviously, people were offering condolences as if, I don't know, I had passed or something. But yeah, so there was this guy who said, IIT nahi hua, IIM to hona hi chahiye. And that is something I remember because...
But you went through an IIM.
That is a completely different story and completely different motivation altogether. But kicking somebody was already down with added pressure. When you're in an international setting, is people don't really know IITs. And even if people are there from Ivy League colleges, it's not always that you will come to know about them. Over here, I've never really experienced somebody getting special treatment if they come from a specific institute, or unless they are like extremely good in their fields and their reputation precedes them, like being Stephen Hawking or something.
So three of you, of course, you just said कि IIT नहीं हुआ है, हम तो होना ही चाहिए. That was, meant to. But three of you did crack some of the best business schools in the country. What from the Kota experience equipped you to, did it first of all? Like, were you better equipped to handle failure should it come by a second time around? Or were you that much more fired up to just prove your mettle this time around?
So I was fired up a little bit, but not because of wanting to prove something. After Kota, I realized that all this manufactured expectations and pressure, I don't really want to be a part of it. So I sort of isolated myself from that. I remember actively trying not to go back to my town. I think that was some sort of coping mechanism, sort of it, that I just avoided those people and going back to my town for a while. But yeah, clearing CAD was a different thing that came along when I figured out that engineering is not something that I want to do for long term, and I was much better at other things.
Ayush?
The second time around, the difference was that it was my own decision that I wanted to do this, and the reason for it isn't so great. Unfortunately, we gave a lot of importance to brand name, be it IIT. So I wanted to do it because, first time around didn't work. So of course, again, the same thing was there, that, if you are from an IIM, then things are a little bit easier for you. The start is easier. Even if I would not have done IIM, probably I would have reached the same place, but maybe just 2 years later. That's really about it. Looking from all of our experiences, we all reached where we were supposed to. Harsh did mention that people from IIT are given importance, but he's right there with all of them. It probably took him a year more than him, but that again was the reason that I wanted to get one brand name, and it might not be a great reason, but that's what it is.
But that's the thing, there ought to be a reason. Like post 12, when we arrived in Kota, I don't think a lot of us had a good enough reason to be there.
I at least didn't. After we didn't clear JEE, maybe for 4 or 5 years, there was this niggle that, we didn't clear, and we put a lot of effort and still couldn't. But now if you think about it, I did not really put that much of effort, which was required to clear it. I wasn't there at all. I was too far away from it. People who did clear did study a lot more than I did. Since it was not something that I myself actively wanted, I probably didn't put as much effort. I was one of those 5-6 lakh people who were just there for the sake of it.
Yeah, for me, I wouldn't say the institute name did not matter because of the surrounding. It didn't matter that where I'm going ahead with my education. Though I know it, as everyone here said, that it does not matter really. And honestly, you have people in your team and otherwise who are doing well, who are not from these institutes, and their work ethics might be better. They are performing better. But yeah, I think when you are sitting for an IIT, you're pretty young. The mindset is not that mature. You are not that aware of the surroundings. When you have gone through a 4-year engineering course, you have seen the world, I think. You meet people from all around the country, and you have experiences like no other, I guess. And also it gives you time to absorb failure, as you said. Like my CAT attempt was 3rd or 4th. I did get percentiles the first times, but I did not convert it. It's not that, okay, in one go, if you get it in, you don't get it, you are done. I'm not suggesting you should keep doing it, but only if you think that you are there and you deserve it, and you will get it eventually. Also, what Ayush said, right? Like, it's not that it helps in the beginning maybe, but at the end, it's more about the work that you do. I can give one example. Currently, my wife, she's part of a big FMCG brand. All her bosses, her CEO, and no one from the IIMs or tier 1 colleges, even though she is, then they are doing much better because they have launched some amazing products in the company, in different companies, and are CEOs of the companies right now. That is the case. It's not, so if you have that kind of knack of doing well in your department or in your field, you will do well. In my world, it's a lot of filters are there to get in. So in investment banking, somebody without an IIT IIM won't get in also. So that is why I don't see, in other fields, I'm 100% sure that you will see a lot of people who are doing well because of the work they are doing rather than their background and whatever pedigree they bring in, right? And we are still, I think, restricting ourselves to a little bubble. If we go to Shivam's world or other world, we see huge opportunities that are there rather than this line or stream that we all are aware of, all we are taught of, right? As I think Abby was also saying, there are a lack of role models to understand that there are too many opportunities out there, which maybe being brought up in a middle class environment, we have that mindset of, okay, earning this much money, earning this much salary every month, that is what success is. We ourselves don't know the definition or what other definitions of success can be.
So I'm actually, in fact, listening to this, reminded of what's now a cult character in Kota factory, Jeetu sir. He says, right, कि मतलब 7 साल निकलते हैं इस 2 साल के सदमे से निकलने के लिए. So, I mean, I think we are well past those 7 years. But something that shifted internally, like an internal rewiring of sorts that happened during that 1 year. What do you think you carry to this day that serves you well? Like a work ethic or something that fundamentally shifted in you? Can you appreciate anything of the sort that may have happened?
Very simple for me. It's that it cannot get more basic than that. There's a saying, man is a social animal, women are as well. But you need good people on your side as a support system to give your best, to flourish in this world. Yes, you can work solo, you can be doing stuff on your own. But if you have people who align with your thought process, people who align in your approach to life in general, that's a big plus. That's a big cushion to fall back on. And I think that will help you a lot, directly or indirectly, even if you don't realize it, no matter at what stage in your career. So yeah, that's very basic learning for me, that people are important. Good friends can decide. It has a big impact on what you are going to be in the next 10, 15 years. And that's what I've seen. Yeah.
Agree 200% with that myself. For me, the biggest gift of Kota was this, what I have before me right now. And
Exactly.
that's why, despite everything that may have happened, I wouldn't change a thing of it.
You took words right out of my mouth. I was just about to say this and whatnot. It sounded better when you said it. But I think, other than that, I think it was during a conversation with you only in your room when I figured that the option of choice is there. I don't know how I gathered that courage to just utter it out loud that I don't really want to do this. And maybe around that time, both of us had started talking about, other things which were probably very far away from JEE. Not in terms of career per se, but just having random conversations and then talking about how, life could pan out maybe 10 years later. And I was partly amazed because I didn't know that somebody who has grown up in a very different setting, in a Noida school in Amity and surrounded by parents who were very different, could still think that this is the only option, but now has started thinking about, other possibilities. And that gave me a lot of strength. I mean, I may have mentioned it before as well, that a lot of my validation came from you guys. Whatever are the thoughts that I'm thinking might not be entirely wrong. That is something that I carry, and I still reach out to you guys when I have to.
As you should.
Yeah, that is something that I definitely will carry.
Shivam, what lessons from that 1 year are seeing you through these years of struggle to establish or get a foothold in the music industry?
Yeah.
That time serves you well even
So
today.
I think mainly, as everyone's, the guys said, and everyone would agree, valuing the friendships that you had and made from that time, which could be a support system, and just having those relationships, because we also need to acknowledge that we are really fortunate that we got this friendship and great camaraderie among us. Out of that, there are many kids there who don't get to do that. Just imagine all the anguish that we were going through without having us as friends. Just imagine how that would feel like. So we are really fortunate that it happens, because sometimes, let's say if we were in a wrong hostel or even on a wrong floor, we might not be friends with each other, and we might still have just 1 or 2 friends and still had a very depressing whole 1 year, which for us, in some ways it was depressive in terms of the melancholy and the whole mahal of the city. But yes, we had each other to kind of, जब भी हमारा mood खराब होता था या हम परेशान होते थे, तो एक दूसरे से बात कर लेते थे. We could spend time and have fun and just go out to eat something. So obviously you realize that friendships are so important, which I'm sure all of us took to our college life as well. And make great friendships and relationships during that time as well. So this was, I think, and again at that time आपकी इतनी कम एज होती है, आपको रियलाइज भी नहीं होता है जो लेसन्स है, आपको 4 साल बाद 5 साल बाद लगता है कि यार उस एक्सपीरियंस से मैंने ये सीखा. So so that's one thing. Obviously, that's important. Another thing that I later realized, especially after I passed out of college, that why do people always go to place like Kota and these institutes? Like why do parents send their kids? Because कहीं ना कहीं कुछ वहाँ पे ऐसा format है, उस समय पे तो at least था ऐसा, कि कुछ वहाँ पे ऐसा system format है which is very conducive for people to get selected in IIT. Another example is our friend and my Lucknow friend who was just living next to me, who actually did clear IIT, right? So if you remember, he always used to study. He was always sincere, much more sincere than us. Like Ayush was saying, I didn't even study enough to clear the IIT, right? Whereas he did. Like there were many times we were just chilling out and having fun, and he was in his room studying. So for people who really prime to be into an IIT, and people who really for whom it is genuinely the dream, it is like कि वो engineering करने के लिए IIT clear करने के लिए एकदम naturally inclined है, उनके लिए it's a great place because उनके लिए it will be easier for them to discipline. Yes, they also have the pressure like all of us, but because they're not forced into it, they naturally want to do that. So from that perspective, the whole structure and the way it's organized, it's like someone who wants to go to the army. For them, the whole army military camp is a great thing, right? So similarly, who really wants to go to IIT and wants to study in discipline, for them, this professionalism of the way you prepare is great. It's just that I didn't want to do that. Really, मुझे लगता था मुझे IIT करना है, but actually मुझे उतना इंटरेस्ट नहीं था. हम सब का जेन्युइन इंटरेस्ट शायद किसी का भी नहीं था. तो मुझे उससे वो एक रियलाइज हुआ कि अगर मुझे लाइफ में कुछ भी प्रोफेशनल करना है और कुछ भी प्रोफेशनल चीज में अचीव करना है किसी भी प्रोफेशन में, सो दैट सिंसियरिटी एंड ऑर्गेनाइजेशन एंड प्रोफेशनलिज्म दैट दोज IIT guys have is something that would hold you in good stead in your other profession. Like if the way though AR1 studies for his IIT, if I can get that same professionalism in my music, then I'll be a much better off musician. But the whole this structure जिस तरह आप प्रिपेयर करके आप क्लियर कर सकते हो, इस तरह की उस चीज में भी कुछ मेरिट है जिसकी वजह से शायद काफी लोग जाते रहते थे वहां पे और काफी लोगों का सिलेक्शन भी होता था. बट वही है कि जो उनको नहीं करना है, जिनको जबरदस्ती भेज दिया जा रहा है या जिनके सोसाइटल प्रेशर के चक्कर में जिनको भेजा जा रहा है, उनके लिए वो बहुत ही गलत तरह से वो वर्क करता है. सो ये भी एक है कि वहां से ये भी रियलाइज हुआ कि लाइफ में अगर आपको कहीं भी कुछ सक्सीड करना है तो यस यू नीड टू हैव दैट सपोर्ट सिस्टम, बट दैट काइंड ऑफ प्रोफेशनलिज्म एंड sincerity, if you can bring into whatever you want to do, it would be something else. Because obviously at that time you don't understand that. But I was when 25, 27, I realized that, this culture, if you are in the right zone, if you're in the right field, then that culture is really, wouldn't seem like a toxic culture to you if you are in the right thing. If you're in the wrong place, then it could go anywhere. So that was another sort of counterintuitive kind of learning. There is some good in that kind of structure as well, but if you are placing it in the right field. So that's the main thing I think for me.
Absolutely agree. Yeah.
और एक चीज और जो सोशल डायनामिज्म है जो आप वहाँ से पिक करते हो, मतलब नोइंगली और अननोइंगली, वो बहुत बड़ा एड ऑन फैक्टर है आपकी प्रोफाइल पे. आई मीन नॉट करियर वाइज बट एज अ पर्सन. लाइक Abhi sir's love for reading and books, it generally rubbed off of me. मुझे भी मतलब I used to read random stuff, but I could see कि यार Abhi जैसा बंदा जो बचपन से पढ़ता हो, इतना सब कुछ आ रहा है apart from the academic reading that we all do. What he's saying, you can feel it in his expression. Or if you want to, I don't know, sound more intellectual or whatever, or maybe you just want to gain more knowledge, this is also possible. This is also a possibility. लोग ऐसे भी होते हैं, kind of thing. कि it's not just like growing up watching cartoons, studying your academics, playing cricket on the streets. Yes, that's a part of our childhood, but then that's a different side to it which you don't see. और इसके अलग अलग reasons I will get into that later on. But yes, Ayush इतना अच्छा गाना वाना गाता है, plus उसका music taste मुझ पे definitely rub off हुआ, क्योंकि I knew A.R. Rahman was a great music director, music producer, but then जो music का choice है that I learned from Ayush, like ghazals and all, उसके बाद और appreciation बढ़ा मेरा शायरी की तरफ, ghazals की तरफ, and that has no way added to the corporate life I have, but still it is.
Made you a fuller person.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, right? Like most children coming into Kota would be dissuaded likely by their parents, that you're not there to make friends. Everyone is competition. Just focus in on, be like a horse with blinkers on. But in the end, I think we decide which is more important to us.
In general, like teenage boys or men are dissuaded from expressing their feelings. Like feelings is something that boys should express, kind of notion is there. So did you guys experience that growing up, and how did you shed those inhibitions when you opened up to each other?
Before anyone says, I can say it was hard. It was not easy. But carry on.
And so just to follow, how would you suggest teenage boys in general go about doing it?
Find yourself a group like this one. Because I hadn't shared anything of mine with anyone ever prior to these guys. In fact, there were times even when I was being difficult, I'd go into my own shell, and these guys took it upon themselves to break me out of it. So, so you need a group of friends that takes it upon themselves to uplift you, to take you out. Of course, you can't overstay their welcome. You too have to show resilience, strength, and want to get out of that situation yourself. You can't just count on others to do it for you. But if you're willing to and you need help, then you need a group like this one that'll enable it for you.
And yes, there were some instances of people, of all of us, I guess, then people will just lock themselves up without no reason, without no idea that what's going on in your head. And then we'll be like, okay, give him some time. And then if that time limit has passed, then we go and bang on the door.
Take action, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, something like that.
I think if guys don't find a large group, like we were fortunate enough to find, having that one friend in whom you can confide in and then talk about anything and everything would also be a start. That friend may not be the most intelligent and most understanding person on the planet, but at least that'll be an ear. Yeah, growing up, I think I was definitely made aware of the fact that I'm not allowed to express. So even if I felt joy or I was intimidated or whatever, I was supposed to be resolute, and stoic is probably the term for it. Yeah, I think it just started as something very trivial and fun. The idea was just to play truth and dare or whatever with the group. And suddenly the floodgates opened and everybody started sharing the wildest of stories that people had to share. And I was so surprised that people went through a whole lot of things and just suffered silently. So I don't know if any of the teenage guys are listening or girls, please do not isolate yourself. Find that one person who is ready to lend you an ear and just confide. Even if they don't really have anything to offer, I think sometimes just saying it out loud helps, which is what I did a whole lot with Abhi and Shivam most of the time.
I might.
Right.
Also, what happens at that is that we were really fortunate to find people like us when we wanted to confide, let's say, in someone else was listening with all ears and not bullying us or making fun of us or whatever, Maybe sometimes at that age you are not able to find those kind of people, or you try opening up but someone is not receptive. So what also much later I realized in life, what also helps in building those kind of friendships is you offering your ear to someone else. Maybe no one is listening to what you are trying to say, but if you reach out to someone and ask someone, how are you doing, bro, or why do you seem so low or whatever, you'll be surprised how much people would want to share about themselves sometimes. Then maybe some days later, when you want to speak, then that person would listen, So a lot of time, even when you feel like, meri koi baat nahi sunna hai, nobody relates to me, maybe you try to relate to someone else. Maybe you try to empathize with someone else. Some random guy in your hostel who's struggling with something, maybe help him out. He's not your friend, but maybe just help him out just as another human being. You'd be surprised to know how quickly you can spark those kind of friendships together. So it's also about, which is obviously something that doesn't come to you intuitively. At that age, you're very introvert and you're very into yourself and all of that, especially when you're first time away from home and you feel like this Shashank was saying, I used to feel like these guys are so confident and how could I be their friend? But that was not the case. We were as underconfident as him. It's just that we just appeared to have fun because we were 2-3 friends from the same city, so we already knew each other, so we were not absolutely alone. That was the only difference. But unless we were all like the same. But once you start talking to each other, start reaching out to each other, you feel like, you know what, they're just like me. So if you're not able to find your tribe, which sometimes could be difficult and a lot of times it's just luck, it's really important to just ask how other person is doing, help them out. And then you would also feel better by helping someone else out. And then later, when you feel like talking or you feel like sharing or confiding in someone, then that other person will lend you their ear, And so that's also how organically a lot of friendships get made. So that could be a helpful.
Start putting that intent out by being that yourself, what you'd like.
Yeah, being that for someone else whom you might not be a close friend already, who might just be an acquaintance or a classmate or whatever. So I think that could help.
Hearsay, you had something to say before I go to the next question?
Yeah. So I just wanted to add that as everyone was saying, it's important to share secrets. Obviously, we all know each other's probably the darkest secrets and nobody else knows. But that is because of the time we shared with each other, the amount of trust we developed in each other. As men, I think we are not able to do that because of trust issues, as well as what pointed out, right, that we are supposed to be the tough. I don't know the other word for it, but yeah, something like that. But the other point is, what I wanted to say is a lot of other things, just having people around helps. So I'll give one example. So obviously we all behave in different ways. So when we know that this is a structure that has been designed and you have to go through that struggle, we all would do something together in the morning, which is, I think, our most happy moments from Kota. And but we all had a different routine, right? Like I would study till 4 a.m. Shanky would wake up at 4 a.m. Somebody else would study till 4 a.m. So it's not you alone doing that, right? It's all the people around you doing that. So it makes it much more easier that you all have a certain routine, you are following it, and then you are doing something fun. So overall, it's just not forced or pressurized. You make a routine out of it, and the people around you help follow that routine. So in that way also, people around help. One thing also, which I wanted to point out, that even in our small world, in our small hostel, we saw different scenarios of young students who have come and who have gotten freedom for the first time, and they did things which were not, I don't want to use the word right, but they were doing things for which they were not in Kota for, right? Like they got sidelined, they were doing things. Now there are so many options, but back then we used to have cafes and those kids would be there for 12 hours. One of my neighbors used to be there for 12 hours. And all that used to happen. So I think what Shivam was also saying, Kota is a structure, but it not be a structure for everyone, right? Like you have designed a structure and you're pushing everyone to follow that structure. That structure might work for 10% or 5% of the people, or even 20% of the people. But it's not necessary that it will work for 100% of the people. So just pushing everyone through that structure and not taking feedback and not trying to understand what is working for one and what is not working for one, just making a single mold to push everyone through it might be the reason that it becomes so difficult for a lot of people. So I think when you are going, don't assume you are the only one who is suffering. You are not the only one who is not able to adjust. There are everyone around. There are just too many. There are just too many who are going through the same grind. So don't worry. You don't have to be the top 0.0001% or whatever the percentile becomes. It's okay, and try and find people around you who helps you work, who helps you study, who you can talk to, and it's normal. In the end, it's normal. It's okay to feel that you are not the most talented, you're not getting, and Kota is actually worse. They divide you in those classes and those batches, and it makes you even worse. It was that, okay, you're not in the top batch, etc. But it's okay. Not everybody is made of the same mold. If you're not able to crack this, you will be able to crack something which the other person will not be able to. So you will be able to find your path and you will do better.
Absolutely. Solid advice. My next question is, do you think that kind of isolation is even possible in today's time? The kind that we experienced? Because today in this, when we all have smartphones, and it's all the more easy to suffer FOMO because you see everyone posting everyone anyway just puts out like the glossiest parts of their lives, the fun they're having in engineering college or their vacation pictures. So is it like, does it induce all the more FOMO? Does it get all the more dangerous? And as a consequence of it is the exercise in self-restraint that Harsh was talking about. Does it become all the more important and comes all the more on the individual themselves? Like they have to restrain and look after themselves. Ayush, I think your sister Amrita is the most recent of us to have gone through the Kota experience. What was her experience like? Because I think smartphones were well in our lives by then. And she's a qualified doctor now, so she obviously did well for herself. But the Kota experience, was it different from what we had?
No, I think it was different from the sense that, again, I'm coming back to the same point that she was more driven, I think, than any of us. Because going there was her decision. I suggested her really not to go. My parents also didn't really want her to go, but she wanted to. Surprisingly, we were surprised with that. But we, of course, went with her decision. And as she did well because she wanted this to happen. But yes, coming back to the smartphone point, it is extremely difficult. It is difficult for us to focus on what we are doing right now. So just imagine about the 16, 18 years old who's there. It is too damn difficult. But yeah, I mean, again, there's no other way out. They have to. The one way, again, to do this is rather than getting distracted by a smartphone or the multiple other avenues there are nowadays, is to have something like what we did. And one more reason I think which we were able to connect was because there weren't really too many other things for us to do. There wasn't any smartphone. There were just us group of 5-6 friends with whom we could share things. And very surprisingly, since I saw her experience very closely, the entire Kota system is now much more professional. What Shivam was saying, it was professional even when we were there. It's crazy now. It's just like a very strict school. The hostels are governed by these rules and regulations which are defined by the coaching centers. There are literally people walking around in the localities, ensuring that kids are not whiling their time away. And these are people designated by the coaching center. So it's crazy now. And there are many more people compared to when we were there. So are the avenues. We didn't have too many restaurants, right? We were just 2-3 places where we could go. Now, all the brands are there. All the shopping places are there. I remember we had one mall. We had one multiplex. Now it's just like any other city. There are too many things for them to do. So it is much more difficult for the kid, and only the people who are really driven, really interested in this will be able to get away from these distractions. So like I'm saying again and again, if you're interested, then that's only when you should think of this option and not just as a default.
So, like, just to clarify, for added information, the coaching centers almost control the lives of everyone who is, like, all the students who are there right now. So they do have the power to control, in a good sense, a mental state, or theoretically they do have the power.
They do have the power, and they do now, because I know there are a lot more things the institutes are doing compared to when we were there. There are a lot of the kids have access to psychologists. There is a lot more stress being given on mental health of the kids, none of which was there when 16 years ago. But yes, end of the day, you spend just 5-6 hours in a coaching institute. About 17-18 hours you're at your hostel. It really depends on what you want to do. And having a good set of friends, or like Shashank said, even just one friend, is very, very important to ensure that your mental health is good, and also to ensure that you're doing what you're supposed to. That's your question. That coaching centers, yes, they have a lot of power, and they are trying to do whatever they can, but there's only limited really that they can.
But if someone wants to spend some time playing a sport, so that's on the schedule of the coaching and hostel whatever setup, or that's on the individual to take up.
That is on the individual to take up. I don't think coaching centers actively promote any sort of activity which takes them away from study. The coaching centers there are very, very about studying 20 hours a day, and that's unfortunately the kind of competition there is.
If you are up, you are either reading or practicing. I mean, I think that's how they go.
And they're not hiding anything about it. The coaching centers are very clear that you have to study 16, 20 hours a day. They want you to do that. They don't want you to spend time in sport. They're all about getting their numbers better, the number of selections. But of course you can't. I mean, you can't study 20 hours a day for a year. There's got to be some sort of distraction. There's got to be some sort of avenue for you to vent away whatever problems you have. You need to have such friends, such avenues, and that's on you. That's not something the coaching center.
You guys have brought up being driven. So is there a difference between being driven and being obsessed? Because I could be driven and yet not make it. But if I was obsessed with that would just then drive me crazy that I wasn't being able to get there. So was there a difference between the students that you saw, the driven versus the obsessed?
Most of the driven people will also not make it. So everyone has to agree to that and accept the fact. The numbers are pretty stacked against you in the whole world of competition. And although we are all from the JEE background, so we are talking about that, but it's not just that, right? It's all the other competitive exams, the medical, the civil services. Even after that, the MBA, the numbers are stacked against you always. So even if you're driven, you may not make the cut, but you will make the cut in something or the other. That's what you really need to focus on. Give your best, but if it's not happening, it's not happening. And that's okay. I think that's what we all are here trying to say, that it's okay. Doesn't matter. End of the day, it works out.
I think part of what Megha was saying that about the obsession thing, in some of the institutes or maybe in some of the teachers' way of teaching, I found that they were trying to promote an obsession. Like there were teachers who would actively plan out your entire day and then tell you that you don't have time for anything. You have to finish your breakfast, lunch, maybe skip one of those, combine two of them in one meal, and then remaining time you have to focus on your studies. Some of the institutes in the southern part of India, Vizag, and some other areas, they have had this kind of a methodology since maybe 20 years ago. And that was one of the places I went to and came back because that I felt like I was in a jail. Obviously, the psychologists and the counselors were not there. They were just muscular men who would implement or rather impose discipline on you. I don't know how healthy or how effective that is, but I hope that has changed now. I don't think I saw anybody who was actually obsessed to be an IITian. There were people who were extremely driven, like our friend Aditya. These kind of people knew when to put studies above other things, unlike some of us.
And it's not like we did not study. We did study. It's just that the competition is too fierce. I mean, if you're an average Joe, it's not for you. But if you think you are doing very good in your school, in your local area, whatever, then you come to Kota, you realize if you are 99 on a scale of 100, there are people who are 99.9999. There's 6-7 degrees of decimals after that. So there's too much to climb. Yeah, that's important to realize before you embark on that journey, any journey of that sorts in India.
So what I'm hearing is, of course, that it's a structure that's designed a particular way, and it is what it is. And you need to know what you're signing up for. And it's not meant for everyone. It'll aid you only if you're cut out for it anyway, to begin with. So anyone else will just end up wringing themselves dry. Yeah, I think that.
And maybe I go on an off tangent, but I wanted to say it from the start as well. Realizing or just observing what we have said or discussed until now, I think there's also a guidance or a mentorship needed for parents who are deciding for the future of their children, boy or a girl. That hey, for example, my dad is from a government sector. My dad's first thought that I would do a BA or something, or BSc, and then I will straight away go for civil services. As easy as that. And I was good in general knowledge. I was good in, I was good in my academics, but I loved computers as well. So there was already a difference. But then in 2003, 2005, people did not know that what is computer going to do in the next 20 years. And now we are in the age of AI. It feels like it happened in the blink of an eye. But then my dad did not know about the power of IT in general. And that's why, he wanted me to go and sit for civil services. And he still says to this day that if you would have tried, you would have cracked something. Maybe it would take you 2-3 attempts, but I knew from the start that bureaucracy is not my thing. So yes, so coming back to the point that if my dad was aware that, hey, IT is an upcoming field, and if you put your children, because I love computers, that's why I'm talking about IT. If they know about it, they maybe don't force or change the perspective at least. Focus on the schools who give you a better computer education in those times. Because I knew a lot of schools did not catch up with the speed at which the IT industry was progressing. And I still feel during my graduate course as well, the stuff that we studied as academics was maybe 6-7 years behind of what the industry was asking for. So we still need to make a lot of progress in those areas.
Which drives home all the more the importance of us building our self-awareness early on and making informed choices. Parents, of course, it would be great, it would be ideal if they were also tuned into the times, but we need to take it upon ourselves. And so almost towards the end now, I would want to know from each of you, so 16 years on, what is your mission right now? What have you taken up? What are you looking at leveling yourself up in? Basically, what are you working on yourself with?
I think that's a very difficult question, Alistair. Honestly, I think I said it before also that I am 33. I don't know what I actually want to do in life. Right? And it's not. I guess it's not for everyone to understand what they want to do very early in their life. Like maybe Sanjay was saying, he was aware that he is fond of computers. I'm a computer science engineer. During my engineering, I did not like it. Later, I liked it. Then I don't know where I am right now. So it's not that easy. But yeah, from upskilling point of view, I jumped into a different sector 1 year back. It's very surprising how the world works in this industry and trying to understand, because it's a 200, 300-year-old industry, right? Like, a lot before computers. So people, even the biggest banks operate in funny ways. So trying to upscale into that and yeah. And even
just to add on there, I know in Luxembourg is a financial haven or whatever. It's a center of financial technology, as you say. Lots of funds are domiciled here. So a lot of systems of the banks, they are still using the mainframes built in 1970s. And people who knows those skills, they're either retired or they're not there anymore in the world. So people are getting hired to maintain those mainframes. They are the top of the cream. They are earning the most. Not people doing AI, not people doing machine learning. The people are doing mainframe maintenance. They are getting paid the most in Luxembourg. Because I work with the banking client, so I know how it works. So yeah, just to say it out loud.
Absolutely. And also going back to my roots a little bit, trying to learn a new language, which is weird at this age. Even my wife says I used to trying to do coding, but I just for the fun of it, I'm trying to learn a new language and develop some skills there. I don't know why, but yeah, just something extra that I want to do, and I don't want to feel bored that I am doing something which is part of the job and I'm not doing anything else. I learned Python.
You can also say in terms of non-career related growth that you're working on.
I thought when you said language, I thought you were going to say German, Spanish, or French or something.
Me and Changi are doing that too as well, because I live in a French-speaking country. So I obviously I'm learning German, and I'm learning. So just like what Megha said, non-academic stuff you're working on. So I have a full-time, lifetime project now, my daughter. So that's easy for me to say because I focus a lot of time on her. It's a joy to see her grow up. Plus, she is in a French-speaking environment. So I was preparing it for before she was born. So now I can manage in my broken French with her. So yeah, that's one of the lifelong projects. Plus, like Harsh said, I'm also doing some stuff with the ChatGPT and how to create your own GPTs as such. So just playing around with them, and maybe I'll share some ideas with you guys. Maybe you can implement them in the future. I don't know if they are feasible, but we'll do something. Yeah, hopefully.
So I won't talk about the professional ones. That will keep changing, I guess, every 2 years. But I think the thing which has stuck for a long time is the interest in reading, and Shashank mentioned about my interest in old songs and ghazals. I think I'm just trying to find as much time as I can from the professional life with these 2-3 activities. There's nothing new happening really, but yeah, this is what I'm trying to do. Whatever less time on a weekend I can find with that. That's about it really.
So I'm sort of thinking about moving back at some point, and then I don't really want to work too much. So trying to figure out passive income avenues. So yeah, doing some bit of research around that, and I wanted to write a book for quite some time, but I figured I'm too lazy for that. So I'll probably, but I like telling stories, so I'll probably write a collection of short stories at some point. So I'm trying to work on that.
Yeah, I'll ghostwrite for you.
Right.
We all will. We'll take it in turns
Yes.
and then make it happen.
Yes.
You just
Yes, actually.
You anyways don't want to work too much, right? So just outsource writing as well.
we'll be happy to like distribute the workload among
And
us.
Shivam can do a musical as well on it.
At some point.
Promotions for music. It's that'd be fantastic.
Guys, we are recording. We should do it.
I also like this arts or creative side of this group. I mean, it's evident. Some people like to sing, some people like to compose music. I, at the point, used to write a lot of poetry.
Yes.
I still do, but I mean, it's limited to myself. So this is something. Also, I think one of the things which clicks with each other. We have this. I don't know if I can call it artistic bent, but we appreciate art in general.
Yeah.
Not the one on the paintings. Maybe IIB sir does it, but I don't understand half of it. I've been to Louvre. I don't like it at all. But yes, I think this is a common thing that we share. And yes, Frankie, we should work on something to make a fast income stream out of it.
Any idea you have, we'll make it happen. Just, as in the movie Ratatouille, the family comes together and says, you just tell us what to do, we'll do it for you. So, you're here to do that.
And I just wanted to put it out and have like recorded proof of it, because we cannot go back from it. I wanted commitment from all of you guys.
Yeah.
It won't happen without you guys. So
And
चिल्ला
I really
चिल्ला
love
चिल्ला
the-
के चिल्ला के सबको स्कीम बता दे.
And Shiva,
I really love the humble brag. Yeah, I went to the Louvre and didn't like it. I really like the humble brag.
नहीं समझ में आया.
Yeah, I went to the. Agreed.
Fair the flex. And Shivam, of course, has the rare privilege amongst us to be making art for a living now. So, Shivam, what's coming up for you that you can let us in on in the near future?
For me, on the work front, obviously, you keep working on new things and learning new things on the work front. So that's given a of whatever work you do. But on the personal side, I think, we're in the nearing our mid-30s. And so you get into that age where you feel like, I should pay a little more attention to my health, eat better and sleep at a better time and all that. Because when you're young, you just do anything and eat anything and sleep anytime that you want. So I think we're all getting into that age. So that's one thing, taking care of your physical health, doing some exercise if possible, and meditation. That's really been game changing for me. So trying to be more regular with that. Because all the life in general, everyone goes through anxiety and all of that. So I think meditation is really, really helpful. And also reading a little more rather than watching Netflix and reducing Netflixing and all of that, and reading more. And social media anyways for really don't spend a lot of time on, so I'm good with that. So yeah, these are the main things I think which are really important to level up at this juncture of our lives, I think.
Okay, just last closing thoughts from all of you. So
Well,
given-
Abhinav,
Mate.
that question applies to you as well. So,
What am I doing right now? Parts of what everyone said. So I too I'll find it difficult now to commit to a 9 to 5. So I am exploring various things to do, and so I learned video production, editing, and sound engineering, and I dabble in photography. So, and I've been traveling like mad for the last many years. So I've decided to give that a pause for now, because I feel like I've got what I had to get out of that. So right now, centering myself, the year 2023 was, I decided to make it all about physical fitness. So I took to mixed martial arts, and then swimming, like got back to swimming in a big way, and meditation too. So basically, the way to put it is, there's this person I follow on social media called Dan Ko. The way he puts it is becoming multi-dimensionally jacked. So that's something that I'd like to be. So just exploring and living life is what I'd like to be doing now for the foreseeable future. Final thoughts from all of you before we close. Given all that you know now, what would you say to your 15, 17-year-old self, at the crossroads of making decisions?
So I think one of the things I would say is have a little more patience. Don't be afraid of opening up to people. It'll all work out. There would be people who will laugh at you. There'll be people who will put undue thoughts on you. But you don't really have to take it. You have a choice to exercise. It'll all work out. You're not that bad.
I think whatever we spoke throughout, as a 15-year-old, we barely know what we want to do in life. We barely understand half of the things we are doing, what we are trying to achieve as well. So I would just say it's okay. India is a very competitive environment. If you are into that competitive goals, then it's okay. Don't put so much pressure on yourself. Everything works out in the end. With time, you will find your road, you will find your people, you will find your path, and you will reach somewhere. Everybody has a different journey. If somebody is telling you that this journey is wrong or this journey is right, they don't know themselves. And most probably they lived in India 20 years prior to what you are living. Maybe I'm giving some advice to somebody, he might be living a different path, because I have lived a different path, right? So I cannot completely say what he or she should do. So don't worry about it. You will find your own path, and you will do well. There's no doubt about that. You will do well.
What I would like to say is, don't let, like Shanky said, don't let the others' opinion of you have a big impact on your thought process or the way you go about in your daily life. About the validation thing, yes, it's completely normal to have, but then don't do everything from a sense that you need to get a validation from somebody. Plan out your own journey. You plan out your own career path or whatever you want to do in life. But be honest to yourself. If you're stuck, it's okay. I mean, there's no going back. There is a going back, but you decide that early on. Don't do something 70% and then go come out of it, because it will not look good for yourself. Most of all. So yeah, I mean, take chances, be prepared to fail, and yes, find a support system. It can be friends, it can be family, it can be your mentor, anyone, and speak to people. If you feel you're stuck, if you feel you don't have anyone to hear, there are people who are ready to listen to you and to help you. And yes, I mean, I've had fun all the way along.
Yeah, I don't know how much a 17-year-old wants to listen from a 34-year-old. But yeah, the only thing is, you yourself don't become a cause of pressure for yourself, because there's anyway enough pressure to go around. So you chill as much as possible. That's it.
Yeah, so I really like what Ayush said, because that's like, because going back, like if you think of it, when you're 17, we couldn't have done anything different. The whole world was like that. And for most of us, like for me, it was nobody pressured me. In fact, my parents, the way Ayush was telling his sister, ki, mat jao. My parents were saying, ki, mat jao, yahi se karo. And my elder brother had studied from Lucknow only and cleared IIT. But still, I was like, I want to go. And my brother encouraged me, but it was my decision. So it's like, it seems to me that at that time, we also didn't have any knowledge, we didn't have any awareness, because no internet and all that. So probably we couldn't have done anything. Also, coming back to the earlier thing that everyone was talking about, when parents ki bhi koi galti nahi hai. Like they also, some ways were trying to do their best. They also didn't have any information and knowledge. Like we didn't have. Do I really want to do engineering or not? I don't know, right? We thought we did, but actually later realized that I didn't. So, no, it's like sometimes you feel like there's nobody's fault. Like this is how it is. And in fact, if you see people who were born 10 years ago before us, for them, these things were not even a discussion. They were like, oh, we got a job, we're making some money, we have some saving, life well lived. And people who are 10 years younger to us, or millennials, or Gen Z, who are born now, for them, like being an IIT or being a government service is not even an aspiration. Today's young kids, the biggest aspiration is to be an influencer or a creator, because they're living in a different world. They have the whole world's knowledge through internet at their disposal. So it's just that we were stuck in a certain time where we were in between, where we felt like we could do something else, or we should have had a different life. But we were not so clear like the Gen Z that we don't want to do IIT. And like IIT and medical are not the sort of profession for them. And we were also not as old as early generations. For them, any job and making a salary and any job is God's gift. So we were somewhere in between. So in some ways, it's difficult to sort of understand. But yeah, just take a chill pill, relax, have fun, and everything will turn out great in the end. And if better thing would also be to think, if someone who is a 17-year-old today listening to this or watching this, then for them it's about just explore and see that there could be many more things. For most people, this rigorous IIT Kota thing is not meant for most people. It's only for the really driven people. So maybe there's something else that you would want to do. And even if you want to do engineering only, as Harsh was saying earlier, you could be from a non-premier college, but still do really well in life. So if you have that access to the information, try and explore, talk to more people, read about more things, open up your mind, open up your awareness, which we didn't have access to. So that might really help you make your choices in life. Because it's also what Megha alluded to earlier, that it's really kind of ridiculous to expect an 18-year-old to decide whatever the next 30 years of a career and a life is going to be. Like an 18-year-old, we still don't understand sometimes what we want to do. So how an 18-year-old will, some people do realize that really young that they want to be a cricketer or they want to be a entrepreneur or whatever. But for 90% of the people, 99% of the people, nobody at that age realizes what they want to do. So don't take that pressure. It's okay to make mistakes. And yes, it'll all turn out well, hopefully.
And you cannot plan out for 5 years, let alone 30 years.
Yeah.
Well, here's hoping that the information age that today's Gen Alpha, Gen Z, and everyone to come, this point forth, that they get to reap the benefits of it and make informed choices from a very early age. And today's episode, if anything, was, I think, proof that, it all turns out well. We have people doing fantastically well for themselves at this stage of their lives. No regrets. I mean, we're all the richer for the friendship we share among ourselves, and will continue to for the rest of this life. Yeah, I think that's a fantastic note to end this episode on. Megha, did you have anything you wanted to say to them?
I just wanted to thank all of you for sharing your experiences and being as open as you were. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've been sort of bringing us on this thing.
Yeah. So
I was going to do the as it says.
This is something I want to be open.
I think we should do this more often like this. Maybe I've not posted on YouTube, but just so random stuff like this. It's fun.